Yes, so I'm here to talk about the best practices in data journalism, and basically what makes your project win a grant or an award. Although there's not just one way to do that, I'll share my experience. A few words about me. So who am I? I'm Jacopo. I'm based in Rome, Italy, and I'm a computer scientist. I spent my entire career working on data journalism projects. First in Italy and Europe. I collaborated with newspapers and magazines like Der Spiegel, El País, Internazionale here in Italy, and the European Center of Journalists. Since 2016, I joined Code for Africa. So like Trisha and Piero, I've been involved in Code for Africa since the beginning almost, and my role there is Chief Data Officer. So basically, I built a few teams that are now working on data journalism projects and data literacy programs all across the African continent. And you can find more information about Code for Africa on my pages. I'm working with them at the moment on a few projects that I'm going to mention during this talk. But first of all, I want to talk about data journalism. It's been super inspiring to hear about dashboards and data design today. I want to add something about data-driven journalism in particular, because I think we all use data, but we do it from different perspectives. And I think the data journalism perspective is kind of complementary to the business dashboards perspective, or also the more like artistic and design kind of information design perspective. Data journalism is a process. So as you can see from this famous visualization of the data journalism process made by one of the gurus of data journalism, Mirko Lorenz from Germany, who founded the data wrapper. Data is the main ingredient, but then, you know, human beings, or in particular journalists, will try to clean this data, visualize the data, and the final aim of the visualizations is to tell a story, or basically complement a story, or give context to a story. So the more a journalist works with data, and hopefully does it correctly and in an accurate way, the more value to the public. Basically, there's no data journalism project that doesn't touch on these four phases. So anytime I must to talk about data journalism, I always show this slide because it captures the whole process. And I think the arrow below the bubbles you see there is very important, because journalism is a public service, and in particular, data journalism is even more complex because you are kind of making data accessible to the public. And doing so, you are adding value to the public. It's teamwork. So it's almost impossible to do everything on your own. It's possible, but your data journalism projects will probably not look as good as you would work in a multidisciplinary team. That's because data journalism requires multiple skills. Design for sure, a little bit of computer science and kind of coding, although coding is not necessary anymore, in my opinion. I think you need to know how to use computers, because a lot of tools will be necessary to visualize the data or to analyze the data. So a little bit of Excel, a little bit of OpenRefine, and other tools that we can mention later. But as you can see up there, we also have the journalism skill set. And that's something that you need when you want to produce valuable stories that are actionable, that are accurate, that are fact-based, that are interesting to the public and engaging with the public. So by combining different skill sets, then you can basically get to data journalism. It's impossible to do that without one of these skills. Or if you do it, you won't do it, you won't kind of unleash its full potential. So I don't want to be intimidating. In fact, I think data journalism projects can be very small. So I put this kind of fantastic visualization of whales, because I think data journalism projects are like whales. They can be very small or very, very large. So probably some of you heard about, you know, the Panama Papers, a data journalism project that won the Pulitzer Prize just a few years back. That would be like the extra large whale on this poster. But then you can read like a story made by, you know, a local newspaper, by, you know, a talented team of local journalists who are just targeting their own audience in their kind of neighborhood or in their city. And that could be seen as one of the small ones here on the poster. So there is a whole spectrum of projects in terms of size. You can make a very small project as an independent data journalist, or you can be a team of 100 people, like the Pulitzer Prize-winning project, the Panama Papers, that was coordinated by ICIJ, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. So yeah, we're gonna see a few examples that are kind of in between these two extremes. We're gonna see some medium-sized projects. So let's dive in. So this is one of the first projects I worked on when I started my career. This is something that's begun in 2014, 15. So almost 10 years ago, when a group of independent freelancers from about 15 countries in Europe joined forces to map migration. And in particular, they looked into the phenomenon of deaths of migrants. So migrants who tried to reach the European borders and unfortunately lost their lives. Back then, there was no data about this. There was a lot of fragmented data, but there was no one single database of migrants' deaths. So the phenomenon was very difficult to understand in its kind of whole dimension. There were like very local data sets about deaths of migrants. For example, in Finland, there was one data set about, you know, migrants who tried to reach Finland. In Italy, we had one about Italy. Spain had another one. Portugal, another one. We wanted to give the big picture. So we joined forces, group of data journalists joined forces and kind of pieced these data sets together and built the migrants files. The migrants files are still online. It's an open data source. Anyone can go and see what we did back then. And I think the most important impact story of the migrants files is that even if it was built by, you know, limited workforce, it was built by a group of 15, maximum 15 people with a very small grant from journalismfund.eu. It was small but fundamental. This project inspired a huge organization called IOM, International Organization for Migration, which mentioned the migrants files in one of their papers. And then right after the publication of that paper, they built their own database, which is now still online. It's called Missing Migrants. So we believe that our project kind of inspired the United Nations to build an open data source about such an important topic. So as you can see, I'm already talking about impact, because to win an award or win a grant or kind of get nominated or get shortlisted, you always need to think about the impact of your project. There's no award if there's no impact, at least in the data journalism landscape. So number one priority, impact. You need to do something that is solving a problem, that is inspiring other people to, you know, make decisions. You're basically changing society. So it's a very, very important responsibility as well. Let's move to Africa, because as I told you, I collaborated and I'm still working a lot with Code for Africa. I'm coordinating their data journalism programs. And one of my favorite ones that we made in Africa is called Lungs of the Earth. It is a data journalism program about rainforests in Africa. We got multiple grants from, for example, the WRI, the World Resource Institute, which basically leads this fantastic database called Global Forest Watch. We which basically uses open data, satellite imagery, and machine learning to map deforestation in real time all across the world. And we wanted African journalists to use this data to tell stories about deforestation in the Congo Basin. So we kickstarted Lungs of the Earth in Africa by training a number of journalists in the Congo Basin region, by giving them financial support to make data journalism projects. And through the Code for Africa's data lab, we mentored them and we helped them visualize local data about deforestation in Africa. So this is another project I really like. It is a mix of data-driven journalism and traditional reportage, meaning that you can find videos, you can find animations, you can find human stories that are combined with the data. So this is a project that was mentioned by my colleague Piero and also my colleague Trisha before. This project is called PESA Yetu, and it's all about public budgets in Kenya. So we kind of created this open data platform, visualized the data, and then again worked with local journalists in Kenya to actually use it. Because one of the problems with data journalism or with data projects in general is that the data is available, but nobody's using it. So I believe data journalism is a way to facilitate the use of data. Real quick, because I don't have much time, I want to mention another project called Map Makoko. In this project in Nigeria, Code for Africa and African Drone, which is a drone initiative incubated by Code for Africa, went to a slum called Makoko in Lagos, Nigeria. Lagos is the most populous city in Nigeria. 20+ million people live there. In the slum, you have about 300,000 people living in extreme poverty, with no services, with no real access to water, and many other problems. So Code for Africa and African Drone made a map of this area in the city using drones and using open data. Then we worked with Nigerian journalists to use the data we collected and published more than 7 stories in the CNN Africa, BBC Africa, DevX, and many other media covered our effort. So this project won an award called the Sigma Awards, which is the most important data journalism award on earth. And it's unbelievable that a small team of people from Nigeria managed to win this award, even if the other players, so to speak, the other candidates came with much more resources. So this made us very proud. Another picture of Makoko, as you can see, this is taken by a drone. We have more than 10,000 pictures pieced together into an interactive map. I invite you all to take a look. And this is how Makoko was before our project and after the project. As you can see, there is a lot of granular data collected by the people. Something I forgot about the project is that the local people from Makoko decided what to put on the map. So this is a massive change of paradigm, because normally, mapping is a top-down exercise. So you have external authorities mapping a place, and the people are not really involved in the process. We wanted to revolutionize that, and we wanted to map the place with the people who live in that place. So we kind of trained people from Makoko to use Open Data Kit, which is the tool we use to map and label the places. And they also were involved in the drone flights. So we let them fly drones, basically. I don't have much time, so I'm going to go very, very quickly through the next slides. These are, again, about Makoko. I want to stress a few points before I open the floor for questions. There are a lot of pitfalls when you visualize data for journalism projects. So, for example, data can be visualized in a very bad way. So I'm sure that all of you can see what's wrong with this pie chart, which was aired by, I think, Fox in the US. Very bad pie chart. Data can be misleading, can be inaccurate. We need to treat it with a high sense of responsibility. So here, you can see cherry picking as another way to kind of cut out important data from a data story and many other things. So I have this presentation available for you all if you want to see all these kind of screenshots later with more time. But these are all examples of like wrong data visualizations kind of published by TV stations. And this is super dangerous. It's super dangerous because people get wrong messages from this. So this is how disinformation and misinformation gets spread. 3 books for those who want to know more about these kind of connections between journalism and data and maps and lies and misinformation and disinformation. So I invite you all to take a look at these 3 books because I think they are quite fundamental. And yeah, questions. So I'm all yours now. Probably you want to see also my contacts. Sorry, I'll show you my contacts in case you want to connect with me, but I'm available for questions.
Okay, let me ask a question connected with the title of your talk. Could you sum up what my project needs to win a grant or award?
Yes, impact. I think impact is the most important parameter that you're gonna use to measure the success of a project. And the higher the impact, the more chances you have to win awards and grants. So either you kind of, change the behavior of our community, or you kind of trigger a decision by government, or you kind of reveal some information that was hidden in an archive using data and visualizations. That's how you can measure impact. And I think you need to be obsessed with impact when you do this kind of work. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Reveal the data, as Tafti said.
Yes. So maybe Alex, I can go through some other questions.
Yes, of course.
I have the box here. So, well, somebody's asking why places here there's no data or no forests.
It was about map you displayed.
Yeah, so Valentin, I think if you go to globalforestwatch.org, you can actually explore and zoom in and zoom out and find a lot of amazing data about forests there. So I invite you to go to the real website. It's really amazing. Then how did you make a dashboard if there is no data? I'm not sure. I made probably that was related to migrants files. I'm not sure. If that's the case, Anya, I think we had a lot of data, but it was fragmented in multiple sources. We merged it together and created one single database and then visualized that one. So we didn't make a dashboard. We made more like an interactive map, but IOM made a dashboard. So it's an interesting case when data journalism inspired the dashboard made by the UN. Okay, cool. Ariane is asking, what challenges have I faced linked to GIS data? No challenges in particular. I think so. Data journalists not always use GIS. If they do, that's amazing. But sometimes journalists or data journalists are using data that is provided by institutions or open data institutes or research centers, universities. That's where the GIS work happens. But I believe that GIS is an incredible skill set for journalists. So if there is anyone who want to try to combine the two, most welcome. And yeah, I think, Alex, this is it.